I'm beginning to understand that life is as difficult as we make it. And that's not to disregard any of the physical and external situations and scenarios that we're going through. But it's really just to understand that I think our perspective on things matters. When you change the way you look at things, I think you look at change. So it's really just about recognizing how much power we have and how much power our perspective has on the situations that we find ourselves in. It's about recognizing how much, saying that something is difficult ends up making it more difficult. And saying that something is easier makes it, saying that something is easy makes it easier. So it's really just about recognizing where our beliefs are. It's about recognizing what we think is true. Because what we think is true ultimately impacts our intuition. And our intuition impacts our actions end up impacting our world. So it's really just about recognizing how much power our perspective has and how much what we believe is true can have an impact on the way that we think and on the way that we act and thus how we experience life. And also the situations that we find ourselves in. I was watching a video earlier today and they said a point that really resonated with me. They said that whatever you believe is true ends up being embedded deeper and deeper into your subconscious mind. And I think that's very true. And that's not to say any things that are like indisputable, like 1 + 1 = 2. But it's really just about our perspective on living life. If you think that exercise is hard, then you're going to end up finding it more difficult. But if you think it's easy, then who's to say that it's not easy? Because I think when you almost recognize how much power what we believe is true has, then we start to recognize how much we can impact that as well. How much we can impact what we believe is true. Because even though something could be embedded deeper and deeper into our subconscious mind, that doesn't mean that it still can't be overridden. That doesn't mean that it still can't be changed. But it's just about recognizing how much power we have and the fact that we have the ability to control our thoughts, to control what we believe is true. And thus we have the ability to control what we think and how we act and thus what the world is around us. It's about recognizing that, like I said, when you think that something is difficult, it ends up making it difficult. But when you think something is easy, then it ends up being easy. Just in the way that you think that, breathing is easy. It's easy because you think it's easy. But if you thought that breathing was an incredibly laborious activity, then you end up finding it more laborious than you do. So it's just about recognizing how much power our perspective has on the way that we live our lives, the way that we experience the world, the way that we see the world, and the way that the world looks at us. Like I said, when you change the way you look at things, I think you look at change. So I think it's about adopting the perspective that life is easy. Not to, like I said, not to disregard any of the situations that we're going through, but almost by altering them in our minds, by altering our perspective on them. And in doing so, we almost allow ourselves to see more that we weren't able to see before. We end up seeing life in a different perspective, and that perspective then makes our own lives easier and more joyful and more peaceful. So it's just about recognizing that we do have the ability to change this perspective, and just the ability and the power that this perspective has on changing our world and the way that we experience the world as a whole. I have a Bible verse that goes with the topic of this video pretty well. It's taken from Philippians 4, verse 6 to 7, and it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So I really think this Bible verse, it's talking about a lot here. But one of the main points that I really just take from it is the fact that we shouldn't be anxious about anything. We should almost recognize that, one, if we can't control it, then there's no reason to be worried. And two, if we can't control it, there's also no reason to be worried. So it's just about recognizing that, that we do have the ability to change these things. Even if we may not have any power, any control externally, we have all the power internally. And like I said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's almost about changing the way that we see them internally, and then having faith and praying that these situations change externally. And I think that we'd all be pleasantly surprised by how much things can change externally by God, by His grace, when we change them for ourselves internally. Just in the way that it says, "A faith without works is dead." I think that if we do if we do the internal work, and then we just leave it up to prayer and we leave it up to God, then way more than we believe or way more than we think if we're doubtful, will we see these things also change in the external. So I hope you just come from this video, and thank you for watching.